Welcome MTG Burgeoning viewer. This is a quick message to remind you of our rewards for September. If we get at least 30 subscribers during the month of September, then one subscriber will be chosen at random and receive an entire set of Modern Horizon art cards. Also, any subscriber who comments on every MTG Burgeoning video during the month of September will become eligible for the October Pack Wars. On October 1st, a list will be compiled of all subscribers that commented on every MTG Burgeoning video released during September. From this list, one subscriber will be chosen at random to participate in the October Pack Wars for free. If the chosen subscriber is already a Pack Wars supporter or member, then that subscriber will receive a second spot in the October Pack Wars. So be sure to leave a comment and prepare for war. We are MTG Burgeoning. This is Kitchen Table Friday. Subscribe now and join the movement. Hello and thank you for clicking onto this video. Burgeoning here, and it's Friday, so we are back with our kitchen table series. This is deck number 11. We've plowed through our monocolor decks and we finished our allied colored pairs, so now it's time to move to the enemy pairs. And for today's deck, we are going to tackle Orzhov Aristocrats. Let's begin with the mana base. So we're going to start off with 2 plains, and we're going to start off with 2 swamps. So that's 4 basics. Next up, we have a play set of Caves of Koilos. Tap for a colorless or tap for a white or a black, and it deals 1 damage to us. 1 play set, so 4 of those. And then after that, we have Silent Clearing. We're going to tap 1 to pay 1 life to add a white and a black, or white or a black. And then we're going to tap 1, tap it, and sacrifice Silent Clearing in order to draw a card. Play set of Silent Clearing. So we're a dozen lands deep into our mana base so far. And folks, we're only going to carry 16 lands in this deck. And the last 4, that's going to be our Godless Shrine. 4 Godless Shrines, the Orzhov Shockland. So that's it. That's 4, 8, 12, 16 lands in this deck. This deck's overall mana curve is very, very small. And because of that, we're able to have as many spells as possible with as few lands. So there's our 16 lands. So let's get to our creatures. We're going to start off with our creatures that when they die, they create another creature. So we're going to begin with a play set of Doomed Traveler. For a white, we get a 1/1 human soldier, and when Doomed Traveler dies, it creates a 1/1 white spirit creature token with flying. A play set, 4 of them. Okay. The name of the game with the aristocrats is sacrificing creatures and getting more creatures, and then benefiting from those creatures dying as well. Our next play set, we have Hunted Witness. For 1 white, when Hunted Witness dies, we create a 1/1 white soldier creature token with lifelink. Play set, 4 of them. Okay. And our last subset of creatures here, of when they die, they create a creature. We have Garrison Cat, the most recent addition from Ikoria, Lair of Behemoths. Again, it only costs 1 white. And when Garrison Cat dies, we create a 1/1 white human soldier creature token. Play set. So you can see we have 12 creatures right off the bat that only cost 1 white mana. All right, so let's stack these up. We'll slide them over here to the side. And next up we have creatures that are going to provide a benefit for when these other creatures die. All right. So you're going to catch on to that pretty quickly. Zulaport Cutthroat. 1 and a black. Whenever he or another creature we control dies, each opponent loses 1 life, and we gain 1 life. You're going to see a trend here with this subset of creatures that are indicating that each opponent loses a life as opposed to target opponent. Because this deck is more geared towards the kitchen table, I want to be able to have multiple opponents lose life. So you are not going to see Blood Artist in this deck. Playset of Zulaport Cutthroat. The next playset is going to be from Magic 2020, Corpse Knight. And unfortunately, it's not the 2/3 guy. I couldn't get any of those babies, but we got the 2/2. He'll be just fine. For 2/2, whenever another creature enters the battlefield under our control, each opponent loses 1 life. So although this isn't necessarily when creatures are dying, we're going to have many creatures entering the battlefield. So Corpse Knight kind of acts in reverse. 1 playset of Corpse Knight. And our last playset is going to be our Cruel Celebrant. When Cruel Celebrant or another creature or planeswalker we control dies, there's that each opponent again loses 1 life and we gain 1 life. Playset of Cruel Celebrant. These 12 creatures, all with a converted mana cost of 2. So our first 12 creatures were CMC 1. Our next 12 creatures were CMC 2, which is really showing why we can get away with carrying just a 16-land mana base. Next up is going to be our sacrifice outlets, because we need a way to get these creatures into our graveyard from the battlefield. And our first creature that helps us do that is the Carrion Feeder. For 1 black, it's a 1/1 zombie, and we can sacrifice a creature to put a +1/+1 counter on Carrion Feeder. It can't block, but we're not worried about that. Playset, Carrion Feeder. And our only other sacrifice outlet in this deck, it is, of course, Viscera Seer. For a black, we have a Vampire Wizard that we can sacrifice a creature and scry 1. 1 playset of Viscera Seer. Those are our sacrifice outlets. However, they're not our only sacrifice outlets. Heading our Orzhov-themed Aristocrats deck, we must include Teysa, Orzhov Scion. At 1 white and a black, she's a 2/3 human advisor. We can sacrifice 3 white creatures to exile target creature from the game. Or it's remove target creature from the game. It was further eroded to exile because, let's see, this is going way back to the original Ravnica block. And whenever another black creature we control is put into the graveyard from play or dies, we can put a 1/1 white spirit creature token with flying into play. 2 copies of the original Teysa. So that gives us 10 sacrifice outlets. And that is the bulk, if not all, of our Aristocrat engine. Few other spells to include, just to make sure that we can get this engine revving as best we can. A couple quick pieces of removal. A couple Doom Blades, destroy target non-black creature. 2 Doom Blades. A couple Diabolic Intents, which is a demonic tutor with the additional cost of sacrificing a creature. That can help us find any piece to our Aristocrat engine that we're looking for. And we also include 2 copies of Living Death. For 3 and 2 black, each player exiles all creature cards from his or her graveyard, then sacrifices all creatures he or she controls. Then put all cards he or she exiled this way onto the battlefield. 2 copies of Living Death. And the last 4 cards of our deck here is Rally the Ancestors. For X and 2 white, this instant from Fate Reforged says return each creature card with converted mana cost X or less from our graveyard to the battlefield. Exile those creatures at the beginning of our next end step, and we exile Rally the Ancestors. So, for all intents and purposes, excluding the 2 copies of Teysa, we can make X2, and for 2 and 2 white, we can return all creatures from our graveyard right into play, and then set up our sacrifice outlets all over again, draining our opponent's life. Rally the Ancestors has a lot of versatility, especially for potential combat tricks if needed. Okay, that is our Orzhov Aristocrats deck. Now, let's put the deck together and let's do some play testing. All right, so let's give our deck a shuffling here. And as is customary, we are going to play test this deck for a few rounds. And different from past play testing, we are going to include our opponent's life total as well as our own and our turn counter, so that we can see exactly how quickly we are able to establish our Orzhov Aristocrat engine and how well we can drain our opponent's life. Okay, so there's our shuffle and our cut. Let's move that baby out. Place it there. Okay, we got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7. Okay, so let's see our opening hand. Diabolic Intent, Viscera Seer, great start. There's our land. Corpse Knight, give us just one more land and we are set to go, baby. Oh, come on, give us one more. All right, there we go. All right, we've got this, baby. All right, so let's get... We'll put our opponent's life total right down here. All right, our opponents will start at 20. And of course, we start at 20. Let's bring it down here so we can be a little even. There we go. And we'll grab our turn counter. Shouldn't need anything more than a D8 for this. Actually, a D6 would probably be just fine too. Okay, here we go. All right, turn 1, we draw a card, we draw Teysa. All right, so we're going to put our Godless Shrine into play. We're going to pay 2 life for that baby to come into play untapped. And we are immediately going to tap 1 and throw out our Viscera Seer. All right, we untap. We move to turn 2. We draw a card, we get another Viscera Seer. Nice. So we play our Caves of Kolios. And I think we're going to put our Corpse Knight out right away. So we're going to tap this. We'll take a point of damage from the caves. And we're going to play our Corpse Knight. Okay, so far we're setting it up. All right, we're going to move to turn 3. We untap our lands. We draw our next card and the Doomed Traveler. And here we go, folks. Now we're ready. All right, so let's take our Godless Shrine. Let's tap that for a white. And let's cast our Doomed Traveler. Okay, so when we put Doomed Traveler into play, each opponent loses 1 life. They're down to 19. Let's take our Caves of Kolios. Let's tap that. Take another point of damage. We'll cast a second Viscera Seer. Our opponents will drop to 18. Okay, so let's take our Doomed Traveler. And, we will take our Doomed Traveler, we will sacrifice it to our Viscera Seer. And we will scry 1, getting a land, which, let's checking in with our hand. I think maybe we put that on the bottom, because we got our 2 lands, so I think we're okay. So we'll put that swamp on the bottom. Doomed Traveler dies. Our Spirit Token comes into play. Each opponent loses 1 life. They drop down to 17. So far, so good. All right, so I think what we would do is we would pass the turn. We would wait to end step. Everything is okay. And I think we sacrifice our Spirit Token to a Viscera Seer to scry 1. And we have another Diabolic Intent, but we already got 1 in our hand, so we'll put that on the bottom. All right, so here we go. We untap. We're at turn 4. We've got our hand of 4. We draw a Garrison Cat. All right, so maybe that land would have been nice to have, but that is all right because we'll tap for 2. We'll put our Cutthroat out. Each opponent loses a life. Okay, very good. So now let's do this. Let's sacrifice our Viscera Seer to our other Viscera Seer. And let's scry 1. Doomed Traveler. We'll leave that right there. And our opponents lose a life, and we gain a life. So it seems like next turn we're going to be able to have a pretty solid turn. So we pass. We untap. We move to turn 5. We draw our card, our Doomed Traveler. We're going to tap 1. We'll cast our Doomed Traveler. We're going to, and then opponents lose 1 life. We're going to tap our Caves. We'll take a point of damage. We're going to cast our Garrison Cat. Opponents are going to lose 1 life. And with these in play, now we're going to start doing some massive sacrificing. All right, so we're going to, what we're looking for now is we're going to try to find our Rally the Ancestors if needed. So let's take our Garrison Cat. Let's sacrifice the Garrison Cat to the Viscera Seer. Scry 1. Carrion Feeder. Let's put that one on the bottom because we don't really need another sacrifice outlet right now. So we sacrifice the Garrison Cat. Into play comes our Human Soldier creature token. So a creature left the battlefield, a creature died, opponents lose 1 life. We gain a life. And next up, we'll take our Doomed Traveler. We'll sacrifice our Doomed Traveler to... Oh, actually, don't forget about that. Enters the battlefield. Each opponent loses 1 life because of the Corpse Knight. We take our Doomed Traveler. We'll sacrifice it to the Viscera Seer. We'll scry 1. Another Carrion Feeder. Man, those guys want to come out. Put a Carrion Feeder on the bottom of our library. And Zulaport Cutthroat triggers, so each opponent loses 1 life. We gain a life. And our Spirit enters the battlefield, so each opponent loses 1 life. We'll sacrifice our Human to the Viscera Seer. Each opponent loses 1 life. Because of the Zulaport Cutthroat, we will gain a life. We scry 1, and we have a Cruel Celebrant. Let's just keep the Cruel Celebrant right on top of our library. Actually, you know what? We're not going to do that because we have a Zulaport Cutthroat in our hand. So let's put that on the bottom. And you can see how this engine is just starting to really rev up. And we take our Spirit. We'll sacrifice it to the Viscera Seer to scry 1. We have another Carrion Feeder. Man, they want to come out. They want to come out to play. Corpse Knight will trigger. Our opponents drop down to 7. We're back up to 20. And that's really all the deck is. So, that was turn 5. Our opponents are down to 7. We're at a healthy 20. Things are looking pretty darn good. Let's do it again. All right, so after a pretty successful first play test, we'll shuffle it up and we'll do it again. And one more time, this is MTG Burgeoning's Kitchen Table Series. This is deck number 11, and you can click on any of the links below to take you to any of the previous 10 deck techs that we've done. Okay, nice little shuffle. Okay, cut, smooth. Slide over. Here we go. We're drawing our first hand. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Hopefully it's a non-mulligan hand. Let's go. Zulaport. There's our Swamp. There's our Viscera Seer. Give us another land. Diabolic Intent. Doomblade. Zulaport. And a Hunted Witness. Oh, if only this were a dual-colored land. Risky. I suppose if necessary, we could sacrifice the Viscera Seer to herself in order to scry. All right, let's do it. Let's give it a whirl. Let's see how we do. Turn 1. Here we go, folks. Turn 1. We draw, a Swamp. Not bad, not terrible. Play a swamp. We'll drop down a Viscera Seer. Untap. Turn 2. We draw. Oh, darn. Doom Garrison. Okay, not terrible. Because we can always Diabolic Intent a land if needed. So let's tap 2 and let's throw out a Zulaport Cutthroat just for the purposes of getting them out into play. We untap. I got a good feeling about this card. We draw a Doomblade. Alright, so we got removal. We could play it safe with a couple of removal spells in our hand and the swamps to cast it, but you know what? We are not in the business of playing it safe here. We want to win quick and drain our opponents as fast as we can. So let's tap 2. Let's cast a Diabolic Intent. Let's sacrifice our Viscera Seer, having each opponent lose a life, and we gain a life. And let's search our library for... Oh, next card. It was there. Next card. We'll throw a Godless Shrine into play. And we will pay 2 life to have that come into play. Untapped. Oh, one more card. Alright, so sometimes playing patiently isn't a bad thing. That's the aggressive nature. We want to just start sacrificing right away. Draining our opponents. That's alright. Not a problem. Okay, here we go. So we're back to our still turn 3. Tap that for a white, and we'll throw a Garrison Cat out there. Okay. Let's untap. We move to turn number 4. We draw a Godless Shrine. There we go. Pay 2 life to have that baby come into play untapped. Alright, so let's tap a white. Let's play a Hunted Witness. And I wonder if we sell out and go... Yeah, let's do it. I see we could have just left the Godless Shrine untapped, but... I'm sorry, just left it tapped, but that's alright. We'll gain plenty of life. Okay, so that's it. We pass the turn, we come back. Turn 5, we need something good here. A sack outlet would be nice. And when we draw another Garrison Cat. Alright, so with a couple of Doomblades in our hand, it may be realistic to assume that we'll have to remove some creatures from the battlefield. So let's say we cast our 2 Doomblades during this round of turns, and hopefully drawing something that we need during our turn 6, because we're not really revving at all with our engine here. We draw Caves, and this could be trouble. This could be big time trouble for us. We tap 1, we cast a Garrison Cat, and we need a sacrifice outlet moving into turn 7. And honestly, with our creatures being so small, it seems... Oh, another land, folks. Look at this. With only 16 lands in the deck, we've got 6 of them into play. We move to turn 8, and we draw a Living Death, which does not help us at all. So I think this play test was a definite bust. 1 good, 1 bad. Let's do another. So that last play testing was a good learning moment to make sure that in a deck like this, where we are dependent on black and white, and your only land in your opening hand is a basic, let's be sure to mulligan that hand away so that we don't fall into that kind of trap again. Alright, so we cut. We smooth out our block. Set it aside, and here we go. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Garrison Cat, Viscera Seer, perfect. Another Viscera Seer, another Garrison Cat. Come on, baby, give us carry on feeder, and a Doomed Traveler. All right, we're keeping this because we can play every single card in our hand with the 1 land that we got. Let's roll with this, baby. Turn 1. We draw our swamp. We're paying 2 life for that shock land to come into play untapped. And immediately we are going to throw out a Garrison Cat. I got good feelings about this hand. Turn 2. Rally the Ancestors. Yes, I sure do now. Play a black or play a swamp. I'm going to tap the swamp to throw out... I say we throw out a Carrion Feeder. And let's tap 1 and throw out a Doomed Traveler. Alright, so we're flooding the board. Now we just need one of our Drain creatures. Turn 3, we draw Corpse Knight. That's not bad. It's not bad at all, so we'll tap. We'll throw our Corpse Knight out there. And now let's start to get some shenanigans going on here. Let's sacrifice our Garrison... let's sacrifice our Garrison Cat to the Carrion Feeder for a +1/+1 counter. And when the Garrison Cat dies, we put a Human Soldier into play. And when that comes into play, each opponent is going to lose 1 life. So the opponents drop to 19. So let's do the same thing with the Doomed Traveler. Another +1/+1 counter. Our Spirit comes into play. Our opponents each lose a life. All right. Looking pretty good so far. We got a nice 3/3 there that we couldn't make bigger. I think we're solid with that, and I think we passed the turn. Okay, we untap. We're on turn 4. We draw. Beautiful, another land. All right, let's do it. Let's get them all out there. Let's tap this for 1 white. We'll take a point of damage. We'll throw a Garrison Cat into play. Each opponent will lose 1 life. And we're going to tap our Godless Shrine. Cast a Viscera Seer. Each opponent will lose a life. And we'll tap our Swamp to cast another Viscera Seer, each opponent losing 1 life. So we got our opponents down to 15. We're at a decent 14. We're on turn 4. So now what we're going to do is we're just going to start getting everyone into the graveyard, because next turn, well, particularly we're going to get our 1 CMC creatures into the graveyard, because next turn we can cast our Rally the Ancestors for 1. And if during our turn we get another land, we'll sacrifice the ones that are 2 as well. So with that in mind, let's take our Garrison Cat and we'll sacrifice him to the Carrion Feeder, putting a 3rd +1/+1 counter on that and giving us another human. We put our human out there. Human comes into play. Each opponent loses 1 life. We'll take one of our Viscera Seers. Let's sacrifice it to a Viscera Seer so we can scry and see if we can get that second land. Zilliport Cutthroat. We're going to put that on the bottom. All right. And let's see, we'll take our freshly into the battlefield human, sacrifice it to the Viscera Seer, getting a Hunted Witness, which we'll put on the bottom because we want that second land. We will take our other human and we'll sacrifice it to the Viscera Seer, and we'll show another Hunted Witness, which we'll put on the bottom. And we'll take our Spirit, sacrifice it to the Viscera Seer, looking for another Corpse Knight. We put that on the bottom. All right, so here we are. We're going to take our Carrion Feeder. We'll probably pass the turn at this point. End step hits. We'll sacrifice our Carrion Feeder to the Viscera Seer. And we'll reveal Teysa, which we'll put on the bottom. And we'll sacrifice our Viscera Seer to herself, revealing another Hunted Witness, which we'll put that on the bottom. Okay, so we untap. We move to turn 5. We draw a card. We draw Living Death. So we did not get the land we were looking for, but that's not a problem. We'll tap 3, taking a point of damage from the caves. We'll cast Rally the Ancestors. We'll return each creature card with converted mana cost X or less from our graveyard to the battlefield. X is 1. Exile those creatures at the beginning of our next upkeep. Exile Rally the Ancestors. We won't have to worry about exiling our creatures because they'll be right back in our graveyard. So we put these creatures into play. We just have 2, 4, 6 creatures enter the battlefield. Each opponent will lose 6 life, dropping them down to 8. And you can see where we're going to go with this, folks. Although we do not have our... we don't have our Zulaport in play, so that's going to slow us a tiny bit. But we sacrifice our Garrison Cat to the Viscera Seer to scry 1. Whoa. Now that we just destroyed our turn and our life dice, we'll keep Silent Clearing right on the top. And when the Garrison Cat goes to the graveyard, Human comes into play. Each opponent loses 1 life. We sacrifice another Garrison Cat, this time to put a +1/+1 counter on our Carrion Feeder. And when that Garrison Cat dies, Human comes into play, and opponents lose another life. Take our Doomed Traveler, sacrifice it to our Viscera Seer. I'm sorry, not to the Viscera Seer, to the Carrion Feeder. Each opponent loses 1 life. And we keep going as long as we can until we know that we have our opponents drained out. All right, folks. This is Orzhov Aristocrats. This is MTG Burgeoning Kitchen Table Series deck number 11. Leave me a comment below. Let me know if you run Aristocrats and how you would pilot this deck any different than what you've seen today. This is Burgeoning, and we are out. Want to become a Pack Wars combatant? 4 easy steps. Step number 1. Click on the link below in the description or go to www.buymeacoffee.com/MTGBurgeoning. Step number 2. Select either membership or support. Membership will enroll you into Pack Wars for $5 each month. Support will cost $5 for 1 month. Step number 3, complete payment information. The name you use will appear on the site. Use your real name, use your YouTube handle, or use no name at all and be anonymous. Be sure to include your email address in the information. Step number 4, most importantly, prepare for war.